officer training series with the mortgage calculator. We will wait just a couple minutes to get started, but today we're going to go through leveraging AI in mortgage lending. So give us just a minute to go live on all the different platforms. We are streaming this live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Thank you for everybody for tuning in on the different platforms. As you tune in, feel free to drop a comment there. We did put the chat up on the screen, so you can drop a comment as you tune in. We appreciate it about everybody that's tuning in nice and early. I see some comments coming in there. We're going to get started in just a moment. All right. So it looks like we're live on all the different platforms, but as we go through here, keep putting questions there putting comments there in the chat. And you can also ask any questions you'd like in the chat as we go through the presentation here today. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Kyle Hershey. I'm the COO of the Mortgage Calculator, joined here by our president, Nick Hershey, and our sales manager, Jose Gonzalez. We are a correspondent lender that specializes in non-QM loans. And what we do every Tuesday and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern is do our loan officer training series, where we do a different training on different loan types, loan topics for loan officers. So today's topic is going to be using AI in mortgage lending. So leveraging AI, great new topic. Everybody's talking about it. It's a hot topic. A lot of people want to learn more about it. So we're going to talk about that here today. So I'll turn it over to Nick, who's our AI expert here at the Mortgage Calculator, and we will let him go through his presentation here.
All right. Thank you, sir. Let me switch my screen and we'll pull up the slides that we have for today. All right. And let me switch this up and make it a little bigger. All right, so today we're going to be talking about AI. As Kyle said, definitely a hot topic for today. We definitely use it here at the Mortgage Calculator quite a bit. Whether you know it or not, it definitely helps us on a day-to-day basis if you can use it. And this happens to be Calvin, our friendly AI here at the Mortgage Calculator, who was created by AI. That image was there. So a quick example there. But let's go ahead and get into the slides. So first off, for those that may not be familiar, what is AI, artificial intelligence? And the definition here down to the basic is the intelligence of machines or software as opposed to humans or animals. It's also the field of study in computer science that develops and studies intelligent machines. Sometimes it could also be referred to as the machines themselves, right? You know, people say the AI, right, and refer it to as a thing as well. So a bunch of different ways to define it, but essentially it's a study or a intelligence of machines rather than people or animals, the way we would traditionally think about it. So for the various technologies that are relevant to mortgage lending, machine learning, natural language processing, NLP, are probably the most applicable. So you guys are really familiar with these. Machine learning is like algorithms like Google. You guys use it every single day. Machine learning might also be things like DU, right, that you guys probably use every single day. And then natural language processing is also known as NLP, is basically now the new versions of AI, right? AI has been used for a long time, or machine learning models have, but the way they talk to people, right? Natural language processing means they can actually communicate now. So there's always been an element of machine learning and AI going on in our society ever since kind of the internet's been in its infancy. However, what we collectively kind of think of AI is when they start adding the NLP element, where it starts to be able to talk, right, to you, to customers, whatever we need to do. So that comes down to general intelligence, which is basically the ability to solve a problem. So AI wasn't necessarily able to solve a problem on its own until recently. Have these models been able to kind of accomplish general intelligence. And the other piece that I would call it, which is where that all comes together, which is basically conversational AI, where you can actually communicate with a computer, right? Which is what we all know as ChatGPT, what we're all talking about today, which is the chat version of AI, which is the more common version of what most of you would be referring to. So when we put this all together, it basically makes the different models that we would be looking at. You could get super detailed into all the different technical aspects of it. There's hundreds of variations and studies within this, but this is kind of the top level conversation here today. Now, what are the types of things we can use this for in mortgage? I hinted at it earlier, but obviously you guys have all used our automated underwriting systems, AUS, right? DU, LP. These are machine learning AI models that are based on algorithms, right? The general word algorithm is kind of what people use as the term of machine learning, machines that get smarter, that learn, that put a lot of different things together into a model. So automated underwriting does use an element of AI for risk assessment. We can also use it for loan pricing. So a lot of these softwares that we already have for pricing and hedging and all those different things that kind of go on the stock market, obviously go on in secondary as well. You guys might not see that every day, but a lot of these models are implemented already. Fraud detection and prevention, obviously that's big. So what goes on again behind the scenes of a lot of these tools that you guys are used to is technically machine intelligence, right? Machine learning, which is artificial intelligence under that umbrella. Chatbots and virtual assistants for enhanced customer service. That's what most people are used to, right? Everybody thinks that's what we're talking about today because chat is the next wave of AI where it can actually conversate. But that, is one element of it. So that's what we all kind of communicate with and what we all experience. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Document automation, data extraction. We use this a lot at Mortgage Calculator. Optical character recognition, OCR, right? The ability for a machine to go in and grab text from documents and pictures and recognize what's going on, automate documents, put them in different folders. That's been going on for a long time in mortgage lending. We use it here at the Mortgage Calculator, and a lot of different companies do as well. Now, what are some of the benefits of integrating AI into your different business models? I'm not going to tell everybody how to do it, right? But there's different ways we can use it. Obviously, accuracy and efficiency is the number one goal, right? So machines can typically, we'll talk about typically here in a second, typically do things better and faster than humans on a much larger scale. Improve customer experience, right? Our guy Calvin is much nicer than I am on a regular basis, right? I get moody and stuff like that, but Calvin is friendly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He has no problem giving that exact customer experience that we expect every single time. Cost reduction, obviously that's a no-brainer through automation. Everybody's been trying to do that, since computers have existed. So it just scales up when you add the kind of artificial and machine learning where every task learns from itself and everything gets more efficient as you go, which is kind of the basics of the AI models. Data-driven decisions, obviously, if we're using data, computers, AI use data better than we do, so they can model that better. And competitive advantage. Obviously, the more corners we can edge out from our competitors, the better we'll be. So whatever you guys can do, every little bit helps, right? So as we're deciding as a company what we're going to implement, right, we're always going to try to do the best we can. And AI is at the cutting edge of all those different technologies right now. Now, here's the big one. So our compliance manager today actually just took a class. MBA just hosted a roundtable for other compliance managers in the industry as well for the ethics of AI, right? So this is big. So ethical implications, the biggest one, especially that, the auditors, regulators, all the people that they were talking about in the roundtable today is about fairness and bias, right? AI can use machines and they might not be able to necessarily withdraw their bias, right? So we have lots of different programs to fight bias and give people that need special treatment, that special treatment, right? There's all kinds of different special programs we have for mortgage lending, we want to make sure that not only do the customers get the programs they need, but they're all treated fairly within all of those programs, right? So a computer may not give that human aspect of this is a customer that may have a special need and may be able to look under those nooks and crannies, which computers are typically better at, but you never know, right? We have to do that as mortgage professionals. Regulatory compliance and industry standards. So computers are great at repetitive tasks, but as we all know, mortgages aren't always about just clicking one button every day, right? There's complex things going on. There's complex compliance. There's state, federal, local, all kinds of different things going on. And even though these models are great, and we have a version of our AI, Calvin, that does go through all the different federal regulations for us, but obviously he's not a human, he's not a lawyer, he doesn't have a law degree, so he's not able to add that human element to those regulatory compliance things, which again kind of goes back to the fairness and bias, right? A computer is going to do exactly what you expect a computer to do, which is always treat things based on numbers and not necessarily the human aspect, right? Misinformation. This is a big one, right? All the demos that people see on the internet where AI gets made fun of, where it makes a blub, right? If you're relying on AI to do something like in a loan process or something very important, misinformation could be very pricey, very costly, right? We don't want to tell someone they can get a 5% rate when right now that's literally impossible, right? So we don't want our AI out there telling people rates and terms and things like that. So obviously we have to be careful what we allow AI to do and not do. Data security and privacy issues. So this is big as well. So this is what the NBA was discussing today. Obviously, most companies like ourselves, we just implemented our AI policy that we need to make sure aligned with our privacy policy and our data security policy, and everything aligns together because AI is now going to be part of everything we do. Some people may have different feelings about AI than they do about other things, right? So it's definitely important to be transparent and get those compliance things in place and get all those policies aligned, and make sure you know what you're doing with the AI, right? Make sure everything is hashed and encrypted and all up to industry standards to the rest of your compliance. And hallucinations. So this one is big. This is what is basically a hallucination, is where an AI hallucinates, right? No matter how good an AI model is, every AI model that's out there has a different hallucination rate, right? This is kind of how we measure the quality of the product of an AI model. So there's always going to be some factor of hallucinations, basically errors, right? So they call that in the AI industry hallucinations, where AI goes rogue. It does whatever it wants to, right? Instead of you saying draw a purple flower, it's going to draw something totally at random, right? Something not purple and not a flower, right? It just does something random, and you ask it, why did you do that? And it doesn't know why it did that. It just did it, right? So that's, again, why we can't have AI do important things like decision making, the final decision making. We can have it model things, but we want to be very careful where we actually implement it, because no matter how good currently we make AI, there is going to be some hallucination factor, some error factor. Every technology has an error. With AI, it's called a hallucination, and it can end very badly because they can kind of go off on tangents once you give them a little bit of leeway there. Now let's get into the final one here, case studies and best practices. And my favorite part, we'll do a quick demo. So real world examples. I'll show you guys a couple quick things, just examples of how we could use it. Industry pioneers. So kind of just a general bullet here, but all the big players are using this, right? So everybody from the top down, from the biggest to the smallest, is using AI in some way. Again, I mentioned Fannie Mae, the biggest player on the block, right? The largest gorilla that controls everything, right? They use AI every day in their DU models and risk assessment. They also have a bunch of other stuff going on with lenders like ourselves behind the scenes, where we have our UCDs and all these different UCDPs and different data sets for appraisals and the full loan risk and all that stuff that goes on behind the scenes, which also uses machine learning. So just like you guys see on the front end, there's a lot of other things that go on the back end for all of these big players in the scene. Also, as we mentioned, secondary. So all of the largest lenders and investors and servicers in the country are all using machine learning, AI every day in order to buy, sell, trade these different mortgage-backed security products where all of our different loans end up at the end of the day. So all of the biggest people use AI, all the way down to us, the little guys, right? The guys in the front line, the loan officers here, dealing with the customers. So everybody from top to bottom. And so I'll give a couple tips here on successful integrations, ways to do it, but through ChatGPT, because it's free, everybody can get it, use it. So let me go ahead and switch my screen and get into the fun part here. Give me 1 second. All right. So let me share my screen here. ChatGPT, this is what everybody kind of thinks of now as the new standard. It definitely is. There's all kinds of different models out there. We use quite a few different models. We use the GPT model. We use the 3.5 model, which you see here at the top. We also use the GPT-4 model. So these are the different models that we integrate. We also use the Google Bard model. We also use the different Bing integrations, and there's a bunch of different AI models that we can implement in our process. But me personally, you see, this is my personal account. I use it all the time. So this is just in the previous 7 days. You see, this is just me doing stuff, right? So I use it all the time just to do different things. So I'm just going to do a couple examples, just general examples of how a loan officer might use this. So let's see. So for example, for what we did today, so if we're concerned, maybe not necessarily a loan officer, but someone in the industry that needs to be concerned about compliance, we could say, again, we're conversating, right? Can you please create an AI policy for a mortgage company named ABC Mortgage, taking into consideration all of the latest ethical and privacy standards. And let's see what happens. So obviously this is not legal advice, but this gives us a great outline to start. So this is a great way that people in mortgage can use it. You see it's literally writing it for us right now. It's going to be grabbing all of the data in the model and able to get some general basics, right? Obviously you'd want to send this to compliance, send this to your law firm to review, but you get some great outlines that give us the general issues. And they're going to tell you to consult legal advice, right? But this is a great example. Another example of how we use it. So, for example, the presentation that you saw today, the outline for the presentation was created by AI for training and other purposes. So create a presentation for loan officers about using AI in mortgages. So we can have AI create its own presentation for our loan officers about AI. Oh, it's talking about mortgage processing. So a little bit different twist than, obviously the one that I made, but this is a good example. Now let's get into kind of the cool new features. So this is where you can kind of take it to the next level. Obviously talking to it, asking it to do things is great. You can ask it to improve it, take off different slides, whatever you need to do to conversate with it. But where AI starts to get really cool, as far as us using it in general here, is let's start a new one, and we can use the GPT for new features, which is where you really start getting some value, where now you can tell AI to create something and then go do something somewhere else with whatever it created. So this is where it starts to become much more valuable. So the default model is what we were using before. So that was just asking it questions. We can ask it to browse. So look on the internet. So we could say, instead of just finding AI policy, is find the best AI ethics articles from the internet in order to craft an AI policy for a mortgage company. So in this case, we're going to tell the AI to go look on the internet for us. So now the AI, instead of us going to Google, or Bing in this case, because Bing owns GPT, it's going to browse Bing and go find all the different articles, collate them for us, and it's going to kick out a summary here for us. It takes a little while because it's obviously, you see it's reading Forbes right now. So it's going to go do its thing. It's going to gather all this information, and then it's going to go do its regular thing, which is spit out the information. We don't really need to see that. That's going to be pretty boring. Let me get to the cool stuff. So the cooler stuff is data analysis. That's kind of what we do on the back end with the API. That's where we feed it complex stuff and it spits out complex answers. So that's more for like document recognition and stuff like that. But plugins is what I want to talk about here. Plugins, we can do all kinds of cool stuff where we tell it to go do things. So now, for example, as a loan officer, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Canva to create flyers. So if you want to create some promotions for your loan officer business, you can use Canva here. So now when we tell GPT to use Canva, now it becomes pretty powerful here. So now we can say, create some flyers for a down payment assistance program for my mortgage company, ABC Mortgage, using the colors blue and teal, which is kind of our colors, right? So now you'll see unlocking the power of AI to do something very simple that we can all obviously do easily, but this is going to save us 20 minutes going through and doing it. It's going to say, hey, which one do you want? And then we're going to tell it, I like this one. Put the information on this one. So I'm actually go through this demo, let it finish here for a second. I'll show you how it actually can kick out something. So we can click it and customize it, or we could say, please add to option 2, EPA programs, blah, blah, blah. And now it's going to customize the flyer. Oh, now it's going to ask us, what do you want to add to the flyer? Okay, great. So you'll need some information about what you want it to do, actually. And then you can just pop into Canva once it pops out the one with your logo on it, and boom, you'll have a flyer ready to go with your stuff. So that's another great way to use it. And another cool way is with its actual image generator here. DALL-E is the image model. So we use this sometimes, like to create Calvin. So we could like create a logo for a loan officer team called ABC Mortgage. So this can directly create an image like a logo directly instead of a template. Obviously, this is not editable once we get this. This is just DALL-E GPT creating us a logo. So this is more hit or miss, right? You can't really create a template from these different outputs here. It does take a minute. And there are much cooler AI image generators, but this is a great example. I mean, that's a pretty cool logo, right? And it's going to tell you a little bit about what it did. And you can tell it to edit something. We could say, do option 4 with a red background. and it's going to try a version of option 4 with a red background. So that's a cool way to use it. You can instantly get some cool stuff going on. And then let me just give one example of ways we use it. Most of the ways we use it is kind of private, but one of the cool ways is our team gets a social media plan from Calvin, right? So every week we say, hey, here's something you guys should tweet about. Here's an article you might want to check out. He gives tips and tricks and sends an email every day from our trusted AI assistant. So that's a quick example of just something quick and easy that doesn't need to be super complicated, that allows us to save our team some time there. So a bunch of different ways to implement AI. Boom. And there's version 4 with a red background, all just from typing a couple conversations with AI. So lots of cool stuff you can do. Obviously, there's much more complex versions of this, but I wanted to give a couple quick demos how any loan officer out there could quickly use the GPT models here to get more done basically in the day, right? We all need more time in the day. You can have it craft policies, craft presentations. Training is a great way to use it. MBA definitely highlighted the benefits of using AI in training. So creating templates, creating outlines, creating policies, procedures, things like that. It definitely does a great job of. So I think that's it, Kyle. If you want to wrap it up here, did we get any questions coming in?
Not really. I guess somebody's asking, how are we leveraging AI in our quoting? Well, as Nick was saying, we don't really have AI give, rates and things like that, right? Because imagine if it has a hallucination on rates that it's sending a client, right? So yeah, that's going to be a human thing. So we need to know what we can use AI for and what we can't, right? So if AI could send quotes safely, then we'd have Calvin doing it for you guys. But Calvin can't send quotes. That's a person thing.
One of the scary things about AI that everybody worries about, right, is everybody thinks it's going to take their job, right? So don't worry, it's not going to take your job, right? It can't do what you guys do necessarily, but it's close, right? It can help you guys, right? So let's use it to help us. But exactly like Kyle, we have to know where we can and can't use it. And Calvin can't go get a mortgage license, guys. No matter how good Calvin is at, we train him with the different laws and stuff, and he does a pretty good job of regurgitating the laws. But he's not a human, and he can't take the mortgage. He might be able to. A lot of these AI have taken tests and passed them, so I won't say that he can't. But I don't think that any state will license, right? I don't think he has credit. Let's put it that way. Calvin doesn't have the credit to be a loan officer.
Or the fingerprints in the background check.
Exactly, right? So we need humans, guys. We need you guys. We're always going to be needed for this type of thing. This is where it's important, where we can't have hallucinations. We can't have errors where a computer just goes off on a tangent because it gets one little piece of data that was bad and uses that to make a bunch of decisions, right? That's where humans have to say, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not right, right? There's something going on here. Machines can help you detect errors a lot of times. That's why they're good. But again, they're just not quite humans, right? And we're always going to be needed in industries like this where legal things happen, right? They're not going to be lawyers. They can sift through a lot of law cases quickly, but they're not going to probably replace lawyers, and they're probably not going to replace us anytime soon. These types of things need humans.
All right. Well, is there a filter to tag the hallucinations, or how do we filter? That's something that we do on the back end as far as our AI with Calvin. When we see things mess up, we discipline him and make sure that that he knows he was wrong for that, and that he can do better the next time. So
that's the machine learning, right? So machines learn, but you have to give them feedback, right? So they have to know if they're right or wrong too. So you're on the exact right track there, Natasha, there with your question. We didn't put it on the screen, but that was what she was asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we want to use AI to our advantage at the mortgage calculator. We have Calvin, which we've been really building, and it's about making sure that Calvin has all the information pertaining to us, right? To our trainings, to our industry, our compliance. So, it's much more than, just using Chat GPT. That's great for the things like Nick said, but at the Mortgage Calculator, thankfully, we're putting a lot of work into building out Calvin to be able to help you with even more than Chat GPT can, but also even when you're using it in that conversation style powered by Chat GPT, you are still, you have everything that you need. He has to be taught what, he can do and not do, and he has to be taught, the back end of everything. He has to know all the policies and trainings and compliance. So Calvin has every training we've ever done, every policy we've ever written, so he knows what's going on. So at the Mortgage Calculator, it's great to have Calvin. We've been implementing him in more and more ways. But at the Mortgage Calculator, you could still get Chat GPT. It's free. You could still use it for some things like Nick said, that Calvin's not just going to do general stuff for you, right? So you can use that to do general stuff. And if you're not at the Mortgage Calculator, you can use Chat GPT for some regular stuff like Nick just demonstrated. So I think that brings us to the end here. Remember, we do this at 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So we're back here tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Jose. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. for the next episode of the Loan Officer Training Series with the Mortgage Calculator. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great evening.